Okay, welcome back. It is June 29 of 2015. We're going to take a look at the next lesson on Epistemology by Brentano. And we're going to take a look at the reflexive aspect of positing and knowing. We'll begin with the acquisition of the actual reflexive ideas. We begin with the object as containing two things, the eulei, outer material presentation, and the aistheton energia, or the inward presented identity. We pass through reflection as a psychognosy, the reflective work at the level of psyche. Then we reach and form an eidos noeton, which is an abstract feeling percept. So this is just simply at the level of forming abstract feeling percepts. And they are generalizations. They are not universal concepts. They are generalizations. But they innately seek to be raised to reflexive signification. So they are generalizations, but they do innately have a tendency towards signification. So we work with these objects of presentation, which present the substrate of the essential substance from which we base that generalization, and they also have that covered over in a shell of accidental properties. So now we need to move on to raising those generalizations to reflexive significations in the second moment. And this is the moment of judging. Judging is a thinking in signs, or of signs. We rationally contemplate the true, or the real. This is compound thinking. It's opposed to simple thought of the first moment. This is compound thought. We link together the abstract reflexive ideas as generalizations that have been raised up to signification as signs. And so this puts the reflexive ideas as signs before the mind, and we form a rational affirmation of the true. So this constitutes a posited belief on our part, but it's a belief that seeks the knowing of recognition. We want confirmation of our positive belief. We want it to acquire the universality of knowing. So this positing is a positing of a secondary object, a para ergon, or a positing that evolves out of a work of psychognosy, out of the reflective work of cognition at the level of psyche. We are positing the generalizations that have been raised up to reflexive ideas or signs, and they reflexively will turn back on themselves in the return of knowing, which is that goal which we seek to reach, the universality of knowing. So our compound model of reflexive ideas orders the signs into a unity of fixed positions and relations. The signs that we use in our compound model are raised up out of the substrate that belongs to the generalization. And that substrate contains the logical and the real of the object. So these signs are ordered together into a collective model of the true, our positing collective model of the true. So we need to take a look at the next moment of how we can move on from this positive sign model that is a belief. It's an anticipated belief. It is a proleptic eschatological positing of a belief that seeks the confirmation and the universality of knowing, and that's the third moment. How do we acquire knowing and universality when we are offering an individuality of a belief, even though it is an eschatological individual presentation of a belief? How does it acquire the universality of knowing? So we posit a compound model of reflexive ideas that have been raised up out of generalization. And that positing will evoke conceptualization and return from others who receive our positing. There is an intersubjective body, or soma, in history that contains the aggregate of combined collective models that everyone else possesses. Everyone possesses a sign model of what they consider to be their notion of the true, their sign model of conviction. We all carry a sign model. It's stored in our long-term memory. We call it up sometimes into consciousness when we view reality, but many times it's called up automatically as an unconscious filter that we just more or less use without even consciously calling it up all the time. But everyone carries this sign model of their motivational base and their core of reflexive ideas. So there is an intersubjective body, a soma of ideas that exist in history as a combined ordering of collective models. Therefore, the stages of recognition include the positing of our compound model of reflexive ideas with our intent to reach universal knowing. Then there's the internalization and conceptualization by others who receive our positing and who are working within the historical intersubjective collective of models. And then out of that there will be a return of knowing, which will raise our positing to universality through this intersubjective recognition and this intersubjective work of conceptualization. That's how we acquire this universality of knowing, which will confirm and authenticate our posited individual belief. So it's another great epistemology lesson from Brentano. It went from page 70 to 90 this time. We're kind of progressing through this book on the evident, the true and the evident. It's interesting because it's not a book that Brentano wrote. It's a collection of many essays and a lot of letters to other philosophers, and those letters are very revealing about his epistemology. So the editor actually compiled a lot of letters that were between philosophers. You know, Brentano had a huge network of sophisticated intellectuals who were all working on hermeneutics and epistemology. So the letters are very revealing and very informative, but the true and the evident is a collection of letters, mainly letters, and a few mini essays. But this takes us up through page 90 on his epistemology.